Dear listeners, welcome again. With this presentation, I'd like to present some international ESD initiatives where I thought that can be interesting for you. They are Education for All by 2015, the United Nations Decade on Education for Sustainable Development, as well then the UN ECE Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development. So starting with Education for All by 2015, this initiative is led by UNESCO, and at the World Education Forum in Dakar in the year 2000, it was introduced to the public. 164 governments, together with different partner institutions, developed this initiative and identified 6 important goals that should be met by the year 2015. The key document of this initiative is the Dakar Framework for Action. And all those activities, they focus on 5 key areas, which are policy dialogue, monitoring, advocacy, mobilization of funding, and capacity development. The goal of this initiative, as the name already says, is to provide education for all people around the world. And for instance, in the year 2007, 70 million children were out of school around the world. And you can also see this in this figure that it is decreasing. So in 2015, only 56 million children were out of school. You can see also that especially in sub-Saharan Africa, it's this purple color in the figure. A lot of students, a lot of children are out of school, also in South and West Africa, and then this brown color, it's the rest of the world. So in total in 2015 the trends say that 56 million children will be out of school. Many of them are girls, so more than half percentage of the children out of school are girls, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. About 12 million girls, they will never enroll and have access to school education. And one example, for instance, from Yemen, about 80% of girls, they are out of school, compared with 36% of boys. So especially for girls, this is a very important initiative that they can better gain access to school education. The reports from the years 2010 and 2012, they show that also a lot of adults are lacking literacy skills. These are 75 million people who cannot read or write, and 2/3 of them are again women. And it's also very often the case that the education in school doesn't have a good quality. So there are millions of children also that leave school, that have access to school, that also go to school, but they then leave school without having acquired the basic skills. So in some countries, for instance, again in sub-Saharan Africa, young adults, they had 5 years of education, but at the same time, those people also have a 40% probability of being illiterate. So it's not only about having access to school, but also having a good quality of education. And one challenge that was identified is also that more teachers are required. Around 2 million new teachers will be required to meet the universal primary education goals by 2015. So it's really a huge number, that new teachers are important to also be able to meet this goal of having better quality and better access to schools. The next initiative I like to present is the United Nations Decade of Education for Sustainable Development. UNESCO is again the leading agency, and this decade lasts from 2005 until 2014. And it was initiated in the year 2002. And this decade can also be understood as a culmination of many other international educational movements like Education for All, or also the Millennium Development Goals, environmental education. So it summarizes many educational initiatives and objectives. In the field of this UN decade, we have identified two goals. So it's about providing an opportunity for reflecting and promoting the vision of and also transition to sustainable development through all forms of education, public awareness and training. So compared to Education for All, it's not only focusing on this basic formal education, but on a very broad level, so education in all different areas, in different fields. And the second goal is to give an enhanced profile to the important role of education and learning in sustainable development. 4 key objectives were identified. It's about facilitating networking and collaboration among different stakeholders in the field of ESD. It's about fostering greater quality of teaching and learning of environmental topics. It's about supporting countries in achieving their Millennium Development Goals through educational efforts. And it's also about providing countries with new opportunities and tools to reform their education to more quality education for sustainability. I also like to present you some key findings of the first evaluation of this decade. It came out that it's a wide range, or there exists a wide range of interpretations of ESD, as we also have this kind of challenge in what does sustainability or sustainable development means. It's a quite complex term, so the same is for ESD. What does ESD really mean? We can see that there is a very strong implementation in formal education. We have an increasing number of coordination bodies in the different countries. There is a number also of strong policy documents in the field of ESD. But on the other hand, there is little interdepartmental cooperation on national levels. There is low public budget, and there is a great need also for more research in this field and dissemination. And what is seen as a major strength of this decade is also the degree of international networking on ESD. So that really on a global basis, a lot of new initiatives came up and discuss, cooperate with each other and network really on a global level. On this slide, I like to show you a comparison between Education for All and Education for Sustainable Development. So there are some overlaps, some synergies. On the one hand, Education for All, as we already heard, it's really about basic education and on quality education of the formal education system. ESD, on the other hand, has a much broader purpose beyond education per se. So it's really the relevance and importance for all planned learning activities, may it be on the formal, informal or non-formal level. ESD includes those in privileged positions in society, also where consumerism dominates, and it's an emphasis on basic values, processes and behaviors as part of all learning processes. Where are now the overlappings between these two initiatives? Both have a commitment to quality education. Education is seen as a human right. It's a promotion of human rights, especially in the field of gender equality or also rights for marginalized people. It's this concern to improve the quality of life, not only of education, but of life, and hence to reduce poverty and improve health. It focuses, or it doesn't really focus, but it shows the importance of primary education. It's about participation of all in education and development processes, and include also non-formal learning. So the last initiative or strategy I like to present to you is by the United Nations Economic Council for Europe. It's this UN ECE strategy on education for sustainable development, and also define some objectives. They like to encourage the UN ECE member states to develop and incorporate ESD into their formal education system, so that really nations say, I'm for ESD, I really implement it in school, in university education. It's about to equip people with knowledge of and skills in sustainable development, and at the same time making them more competent in acting for a healthy and productive life in harmony with nature and with concern for social values, gender equity and cultural diversity. So what is interesting in this strategy on ESD is that they developed competences in ESD. So what are competences that are important for educators, and they also include recommendations for policymakers. So the recommendation for policymakers, it's about professional development in education, so that they should really also pay attention to develop competences among educators who work in higher education and also in leadership positions, and also teachers in education institutions should be considered. It's about governing and managing institutions, so that also synergies between international, national and regional processes can be used. It's this curriculum development, that more competences in ESD are also being part then of the school curriculum, and monitoring and assessment is also an important part to know more about the implementation of ESD in the educational system. As I already said, this strategy also identifies important competences for educators in education for sustainable development. This is on the one hand to have a holistic approach, so to be able to think in an integrative and inclusive way, and also deal with uncertainties and complexities. It's about envisioning change, so learning from the past, inspiring engagement in the present and exploring alternative futures. And what is also an important competence for educators is to be able to achieve transformation in being an educator, in pedagogy, and also in the educational system. And you will learn more about these competences for ESD in another presentation about capabilities and competences by Clemens Mader. I like to close this presentation with a citation by Confucius. So he once said, by 3 methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. Thank you for your attention.